All right. Sorry about that, everyone. What is going on, everyone? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the live stream or the replay. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and we're about to start the week right now. Let me give everyone one more minute to get back into this room after we had that little bit of technical difficulties. There we go. All right, there we go. What's going on, everyone? All right, let's start this off. I'm starting off pretty much clean. I've looked at a couple of things this morning. I know that the Swiss franc is the strongest currency going into the session. That the British pound is the weakest. I think from what I read that there is lower expectations of any type of rate hike coming out of England. They had some weaker data overnight. Let's find out what's going on. Let's start with the DXY and see what is happening. All right, good. We see that we're coming up here. I'm on the 8-hour time frame. I'm going to start on the 8-hour here. It just gives me a better look. We all know what's going on from a top-down perspective if we've watched the weekend Forex forecast. And you could see this trend line here right now is continuing to be in play. And you could see price had spiked up a little bit. So far, it's been rejected. And I expect this is going to reject over here until it doesn't, right? But right now, that's our base case. And I think that the reason that we're seeing most of the appreciation in DXY is probably because of the US dollar, Japanese yen, because the euro US dollar is flat. Let's start with the US dollar, Japanese yen. All right, and we'll get into the pound pairs in just a little bit. I want to definitely talk about the US dollar, Japanese yen, though. This is an important pair for us to cover right now. And the reason being is boom, boom. So you've had this little breakup of resistance over here. All right. I know that some of you were shorting this off of the resistance on Friday. Good play. But when I say but, it's, you know, how can I put this? We're looking at the DXY possibly having the US dollar now hold this resistance. That's the base case. It holds this resistance here, and then we start seeing a weaker dollar. Now I was looking to play the stronger currencies, for example, the US dollar, Canadian dollar, or the Australian dollar, US dollar. I wasn't able to get into the Australian dollar. This would have been obviously the best trade to take. The price kind of took off without me. I was not able to get in. I'm still just holding this trade. It's right at entry right now on the Canadian dollar. But as far as the yen here, so the thing is that we have the U.S. and China looking to sign the trade deal. We think on Wednesday, on the 15th, and you never know; anything could happen. That could fall apart pretty easily. And so we're expecting some, yen weakness into it. I think that's why we're getting appreciation today. But she's running into some more resistance right now over here on that trend line. And then if you step back, yeah, I don't see anything else. I think you have resistance right up here where I have this line over here, but that's the wrong color. Let me just draw that in red. All right. So listen, I don't know that this is going to happen. This is not my base case, but I have a feeling that after the trade deal sign, we're going to see the Aussie come off, that we're going to see the yen strengthen up a little bit. But going into it, I think there's a good chance that continues going into it. If you got into the trade over here, um, I wouldn't be looking for a reentry just yet. Let's see what happens, through Wednesday, and just kind of, if you did get stopped out, it might be the best time to back off a little bit and look for opportunity elsewhere. If I get stopped out of a pair, I do not re-enter it. All right. If I get stopped out of a pair personally, what I look to do then is reevaluate, look for the next setup elsewhere. Let's keep it moving. Let's look at the Australian dollar, US dollar, because this has been pretty nice, but came into this resistance right over here. Uh, Again, I couldn't get into this trade. If I got into this trade, what I would be looking to do is move my stop to break even at that point as soon as it hit this first resistance. and I would not take profit yet. I would look to see what happens and just give it that room to see if it could push through this resistance. If you push through this resistance over here, and then you have a little bit of work to do right above you, you work through both of these, the trade is looking good. I know some traders are quick to take profits. I'm not. I'm quick to give it that room to roam. It's how you make money. You know, just as some traders are quick to take profits, you want to be quick to take your stop. You know, keep your losses smaller and definitely give the trades room to develop. This trade looks good. If you made it to this first resistance, now you have a free trade. That looks pretty solid right there. Just let me review my US dollar Canadian dollar trade real quick. And it's just kind of, you know, at entry, a pip or two below, not much going on, but I'm holding it, and I'm holding it simply because of until this resistance breaks, I'm assuming it's going to hold. All right. That's that's what's going on right now. Yep. So there was the look at the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and again, it's not yet falling into. All right. One thing that I do want to talk about that's really important, and when I enter a trade, if I enter a trade, and when I enter that trade, I then respect my stop loss of where I placed it. I don't exit the trade before my stop loss is hit. For example, in this US dollar, Canadian dollar, when I entered the trade, um, it, it it didn't fall right into it fell into profit initially. That was just during the news announcement of the non-farm payrolls, and then since then it backed away and retraced against me. I don't exit the trade until I give it that room, and that means my initial analysis and stop loss, I let it go until it gets hit. I don't just because the trade goes against me initially a few pips, I'm not looking to get out of that trade right away. I want to give it that room. I entered the trade for a reason, and you know, just like you don't want to take profits too quickly, you don't want to get out of the trade too quickly as well. You want to respect your initial analysis. All right, let's look at the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. This looks good. I think it's going to continue to look good until, again, through Wednesday. I think we're going to continue to see risk on through Wednesday. I don't know what's going to happen. I definitely do not know that the markets are going to sell the news. I think they're going to, and I'm ready for it in case that's what happens. Why normally I'm taking, for example, I'm buying off support in bulls and selling off of resistance in bear moves. For example, this was not my trade going back to this. And again, I think it's really important to review, especially trades that don't work out. I really do think that's really crucial in everyone's development. Uh, I don't normally take this trade, and I didn't take this trade because, you know, it, it looks there was a pretty strong move to the upside. There was a lot of momentum here, right? Um, I'm more looking for going back, this is a strong downtrend. So you get a little bit of a move up into the resistance. I'm hoping then you resume downwards. It's just it's another factor you could throw in your favor. But my point being and what I wanted to make, I don't normally take any type of trend reversals. On Wednesday, after the trade deal signed, if I see the market reversing and selling off that, I will take reversals on the yen. I will be looking to actually take counter trend trades on the yen if that happens, specifically probably maybe even on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, one that's benefited the most. Maybe the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, actually, because the Australian dollar is stronger than the New Zealand dollar these last couple of weeks. Uh, if we get any type of move into this resistance over here, this trend line, I like it better. That's getting way too ahead of ourselves anyway. We have 3 days before that we get to there. We have today, tomorrow, and then Wednesday is the expected signing if that happens. Let's take a look at that on Wednesday. Let's keep going. Legendary, legendary, that awesome foursome. We have a pic somewhere in the archives. We have to find that one. Um, yeah, I'm happy to take a look at the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. Um, so the first thing I notice is that I'm going to extend this little blue box, and that's just for me. This is like a sign of prices just caught in this consolidation. Prices move back into it. If I did see price break down to the downside, that would be pretty bearish, and I would like anything beyond this now support. Get below this support, and things look pretty bearish. Right now, back inside this blue box, there's a lot of sideways price action consolidation. I'm not really interested in it. Was this a bottom? I have no idea. It's too soon to tell. I don't really like things that are like this, that are, very congested, and there's a lot of room up here and a lot of hard work. So I don't like any longs over here. You got to clear at least first above the top of this blue box, and then even over here I have this resistance. That looks a lot better. Right now, the only thing that I would be looking for, if price broke down to the downside here on the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, then I would be looking at perhaps taking a look to the short sides. I wouldn't, but that's the way to trade this pair, I think, in my opinion. Again, I'm just offering my insight, but right up here now that you got to back above the support, there seems like a lot of work over here, and nothing seems easy. And I think there's better opportunities. We're gonna try to take a look at everything. Let's stop over at gold. I'm interested to see what's happening with gold overnight. Let's start on the daily. We noticed that gold had been holding this trend line over here, this trend line support, the lower bound of this upper and lower, and it bounced off. It tested it again overnight, huh? And is since holding. So that's pretty good. I think you got to get below somewhere around 15, 44. And then at that point, I think then the gold looks pretty bearish. We might test down into here. But I think right now this looks good. It's continuing to hold. Probably has a lot to do with what's going on here in the DXY. As you came up into this resistance, that support on gold was holding. It's just the inverse. You could see it really, really clearly. And so I think right now gold is trading pretty solidly off just the dollar in this moment. So if the dollar holds, I think gold continues to rise up a little bit. Um, Again, we're just watching, kind of figuring out what's going on. I know that the Swiss franc was the strongest currency overnight, so let's take a look. This is kind of like what we were looking at on the US dollar, Canadian dollar. You have this strong downtrend, and then price came up into the resistance level, and that's when you're looking to go back down to the short side. Uh, you know, Definitely that was happened up here, and there was no trade for me. This continues to look bearish, but I wouldn't be taking a trade personally over here. Um, I tend to stay away from the Swiss franc, and I don't see any opportunity. You're short the Swiss franc versus the dollar, you're paying a pretty big swamp too, right? Um, you're paying a pretty big swamp. So unless price is waterfalling down like in this area, it's hard to trade. And even when you're sideways over here, if price is not going against you, the trade's going against you because of the swamp. I don't see any opportunity. And again, I'm just looking for what's clear. And although this is a nice strong downtrend, and I think we're going to see a turn in the dollar this week in sentiment. Um, I don't see the edge. No, I don't. Hold on. Jamshad, just hold off a little bit. It's better we spend the first half hour, 40 minutes going through everything. At that point, after that, when we open up kind of to look at everything, we could get into things that we don't normally look at. But we're just going to keep going right now. So all Japanese yen pairs continue to sell off a little bit. And I think just looking forward a little bit. So I don't think today is any type of setups. I know on Friday we had a bunch of waves coming in. I'm still holding my US dollar, Canadian dollar short. Anyone that's long the euro, I respect that. Anyone who was able to get into the Australian dollar pairs, very good. Clearly anything versus the yen was good. Not any of that was on my radar. I was not looking personally. And if anyone's in any trades versus the Japanese yen, please let us know. I'm interested in looking at that. But I guess what I'm looking at here is, and just hoping we get towards the top of this range, for example, on the euro Japanese yen. I think that's a place to lean in counter trend, maybe later in the week, not yet. Right now, I think that you're between resistance and support. So it's very neutral. You're in no man's land. The only thing possible, and I'm not in a long trade, would be managing an open position, but I don't see any opportunity here on the euro Japanese yen. If you're looking at Bitcoin, go into the trading view, go into my trading view page, look at the last analysis on Bitcoin. It's still holding, and that's the best look at Bitcoin you're going to get. So just go over to in the description is my trading view page. The last update was on Bitcoin. Look at that one. Same thing on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. We're coming into this test over here. It looks like, let me zoom out a little bit and see what we're looking like. Yep, it's exactly what I was looking for. I'm going to draw in another resistance level up here towards the highs of these spikes over here. And then the bottom over here, this was support. When it broke in, this should be resistance over here on the upside. I think over here. I want to draw this in again. I'm just watching here and I'm looking for the possibility of a turn this week in the Japanese yen. You don't often see me look for any type of counter trend trades like that. Sometimes this is one of the times though, and but only because of it's. I just have seen it a million times when you get these people leaning into the phase one signing deal, and it's usually a sell the news type event. Yen is coming off quite a while. I think after this, there is the possibility that the yen strengthens. So I'm looking for that. Oof, she's been leading the way. I think if we get above this trend line over here, because right now this week I don't know that it's going to happen, but I'm looking for the Canadian dollar to strengthen up here. Uh, if we get above this midline here, this this line of resistance that she's trading into right now, and so all right, we did look at this on Friday. Was the last time we looked at it, or was it during the? It was during the weekend Forex forecast, and I noted that we had this ugly bar over here. But even though we had this ugly bar over here, because look at this long candle, I noted that we were still above this resistance, and as long as this support hold, I really like this. This looked pretty bullish. I don't see an opportunity that I could have gotten into overnight. I wasn't looking at it personally. Nor do I think I would have taken the trade if I did, but it looks excellent now. But you're into this resistance line over here. If we break above it, if we break above this successfully, uh, again, and I don't know if it was during the weekend Forex forecast, I said this, if you break above this and then get a retest successfully of this trend line and resume above, then I like going long this because I think you have some further upside. I think the next target will come in. Um, Probably coinciding with this high over here, the high of this candle, and also this trend line over here, which would place us somewhere around 85, 85.2, call it, about 100 pips up if you break above here. So if you're holding this trade right now, at this point, as you come into this resistance, I would move my stop loss to break even. I think that there's the possibility that we're going to see a continued weaker yen the next couple of days. And I think we're seeing the Canadian dollar strengthen up a little bit. So this trade looks good. If anyone's involved in it at this point, I would be moving my stop to break even. and just giving it that room to see what happens and where it goes. Nick, the rarely trade the head and shoulders. If you again, oh, I don't do that. If you look at this video over here, we did in this video, this analyst here for Bitcoin is still extremely relevant. The trade is still in place and the analysis is still as well. In this video though, we did look at a reverse head and shoulders. There was the neckline, there was the break, came back up, tested the broken resistance, held a support, and then is resuming upwards. Yeah, it's rarely that I look at is the pound Australian dollar. It's rare that I look at a head and shoulder pattern, because they don't really form all the time. But someone here we go. Good luck. Who was that? Nick. Thanks for bringing our attention over here as we're testing the neckline right now. Obviously, that looks pretty interesting. Very interesting. All right. Best look from the daily over here. We're looking for the break now of the neckline. You can see that so far today that's holding. That means nothing. Definitely always wait for the break of the neckline here to enter this trade. Looks really good. I know someone saw this up here. I don't know if that was you, Nick, or someone else. They noticed that this looked like a possible head and shoulders, and that's why we drew it in. And now it seems to be continuing to work out that way. And we'll see. We'll see if the Australian dollar keeps pushing this week and that's definitely looks like a good and valid trade if you get the break over there and you have some possible, generally speaking, on the break you should be looking for the high from the neckline to the high as far as where you should see the move to the downside, and that should put you somewhere right around, I think, the support down at 1.8137. Looks like a good trade if it develops, if it breaks out. The only way that, and I would consider playing this, the way that I would play this trade would be if we saw a break of the neckline and then a test and a successful test of the broken support, holds as resistance and resumes downwards. Sometimes you get a break of this pattern and it's just a waterfall because you have all this built up right here along this support. You have a lot of built up pressure. And if you do break, sometimes you get a waterfall, and I would miss an entry. But this week, I would look at this pair for sure. I'm trying to look at where it is on my watch list. I'm going to add this to pairs in play and put this towards the top. I want to watch that and continue to watch that develop this week and see if we get a break. All right, let's look at the Euro US dollar, and then we'll look at the Euro British pound. All right. So the first thing I'm looking at, I don't, and not that I think it's going to happen here, but and there's 3 bars here. So where can I find an example? Here's an example the wrong way. All right, we're coming down now. We're coming down now, and you see these 2 price bars. If we resume down here to the downside, look over here. You have this move over here, and then you have these 2 price bars that look similar to these 2 up price bars, these 2 down price bars. You see when price resumes out of that move you get. This is a common pattern that I've noticed over the past 20 years. and it usually leads to a pretty strong and big move. You could see that might be happening over here. There's 3 price bars though. You could see this one over here. So it's not the 2 price bar move. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think that again, what I'm looking at is happening until it doesn't is this holding over here, this trend line resistance right now, right? If it does break again, I think we're going to hold over here. If we don't, then I think the dollar is off to some strong moves. And I've been saying, where everyone got really bearish the dollar, that I would not be surprised if ultimately we broke out of this, what I think is a bull flag, and then came back up and tested up around 99 and a half. Whether that's happening this week, I have no idea. I'm not thinking that's going to happen. I'm thinking this is going to hold right over here. So on the euro US dollar, what I think is going to happen is that this support down here that we have, we should draw it in. I think she holds over here, right? It's getting a little messy. I have a lot of lines over here. I don't like that. I need to keep it in right now, though, so I'm going to keep them in. Uh, I think this support over here is going to hold, and specifically, or especially down over here. Right now, I would be long the euro US dollar. I'm not. Again, I thought the Canadian dollar and Australian dollar were better candidates, but right over here, still looking pretty good, especially actually if you get a resumption upwards from here. This looks really good. You have this support line we had down in here. All I'm seeing now is a break of it and a test back into it. So we resume upwards. This looks really good. Someone mentioned head and shoulders here forming. And if you're looking at perhaps this, and then another shoulder would be, I guess, we'll see where it develops. Uh, maybe over here you're talking about it. I don't see this pattern. So what do you have, like a shoulder like that? I don't, that's not clean for me. I don't see that happening if that's what you're looking at. I think that's what you might be looking at. I think you're much better off trading the horizontal support lines. And generally speaking, unless you're talking about, where can we look? I think it's the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, or it's the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Nope, it's the Japanese yen. These big trend lines, when they break, those are solid, good signals. Otherwise, it's the horizontal support and resistance that offer better signals. All right. So just really quick to tie this up on the euro US dollar. People might be leaning bearish right now only because the last session was bearish for the euro US dollar, but overall this looks like it's intact. It looks like this is going to continue upwards to me. It looks like this resistance here, the support has become support. It's tested successfully, and as long as you're above it, we definitely have a pretty strong bullish bias. Again, the DXY is testing into that resistance. As just because you get close to it, it doesn't mean it's going to break. Always wait for the break, and until the break happens, expect that resistance is going to hold. Expect that support's going to hold until they break. All right. Don't get shaken out and look the other way. All right. We want to look at the euro British pound. I feel like, and I don't know if any of you guys agree, I feel like my flow is a little bit off today. I don't think my analysis is, or, I think my flow is though, and I don't know why that is. Maybe because it's Monday and it's our first day back in, and probably by tomorrow I'll be in a nice groove, in a nice flow. But I feel like uh, my flow, not my analysis. I think my analysis is pretty on point. I think I do feel my flow off a little bit. Apologize for that. I need to look at this on the daily time frame. And I mean, there's not much to say here except that this has definitely a bullish bias, even though we're down here. Anything above this now support is bullish. You got to get back below this support over here to have any type of bearish leaning towards this. Right now, this looks, although you're coming into some resistance up here where my mouse is horizontally at 0.86. That's not to say we won't even break through it. I think we're going to see some, again, some appreciation of the euro in the next session or two. And I think that this move could continue here to the upside. If you're long this pair, if you took a long on this pair, as you get towards this 0.86 level where my mouse is, that's where you should probably be looking to move your stop to break even and see how price reacts off that. Does it get rejected? Take your profits. If not, give it room, because if you break through that resistance, I think you got some more room to the upside. Let's take a look at the other pound pairs though. Like start with the pound US dollar and then the pound Japanese yen. All right, still pretty bullish here. And you can see that the support down here, another one down over here, holding. As long as we're above this trend line over here, I give this definitely a bullish bias. Actually, this might be an opportunity to go ahead and if we start resuming upwards, to even take a long off this. Again, the closer we get to lean off of this trend line, I like it. Why we're above this support line, I definitely like it. You got to get all the way below here to start getting bearish on this pair. This looks good. I know that you see the pair come off today a little bit. I think that might only be a buying opportunity, and uh, I like it. I'm starting to like it more at least. This continued as it looks good too. Obviously better with the weak Japanese yen, but she's holding up technically very well. Again, above this breakout over here. Here was the breakout. Above this line over here is continues to be bullish, and you got to get all the way below this line to really be concerned, and then still above this line, you're definitely good. So everything continues to look pretty good here on the pound, even though that it's one of the weakest currencies today or the weakest currency. I think maybe even on the pound US dollar, it may be providing a possible buying opportunity, but this looks fine right now. All right. Canadian dollar. I mean, this is good for learning. Look at this. Here's that break. Here was the break of this trend line. It continued to hold as resistance. And then finally, when you came back below this support over here, you had some follow through, came back into it and resumed offwards, and now seems to be breaking down further. Um, Looks good, I think, to the downside here. And the Canadian dollar is starting to come through. Let's check on the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. All right, so far it's being rejected right now by that resistance. I would like to see it get above there for a continuation of that move. And also I want to check out the US dollar, Canadian dollar. All right, not really getting the follow through I'm looking for yet today in this session. And the DXY continues to hold up. I don't know where that's coming from. And looking into resistance there. Again, I don't think today's going to be a day that's providing setups. Had that feeling going into the session. There wasn't that much movement overnight. When I woke up this morning, I saw prices were almost exactly where they were when I went to bed. And, um, I think it's really important as a trader, really crucially important to recognize when's the time to be trading and when's the time to not. I think that anyone looking to really make a significant change in their trading, the first thing you need to do is recognize when to trade and be more comfortable with trading less. Again, I do really well taking a few trades a week. All right. So what if anything, if there's anything now that anyone wants to look at, please let me know. Now's a good time. I think the theme of today is, if you're managing positions good, I don't see opportunity yet to enter into the market. I think this is going back to the analogy of the surfer sitting on the board, looking over the horizon, waiting for the next set to come in. And I don't see that set happening right now. Um, if anyone has taken any trades today, and want to share the chart or just the pair, and so we can review them and see. For my strategy, for my style, I don't see any continued setups developing. The pair that was the most interesting to look at today so far, though, was the pound Australian dollar, and just to watch and see if it breaks this trend line over here, because that definitely looks like a nice head and shoulders pattern that has developed, come up really far, and are we going to get the break right away? Well, I don't know about that. Let's see what happens. I think price from here might even come up. Take a look at this broken support, and let's see if it holds as resistance. But this is one to really watch and see what develops the rest of the next couple of days. Let's take a look at the Swiss franc Japanese yen. Wow, look at that. Looks good. Um, looks really good. There's not much else I could add to that or say to that. I think you have all the way up here in this area over here between 114 and 114.40. Uh, the next resistance area, I think everything continues to look good. It's not to say you're going to go straight up and continue up there, but right now, if you're in this trade, how did you get in? What were you looking at? Great trade, and continue holding it. Yeah, we'll go right back. I appreciate that email this morning, and for that edit on the about page. Definitely appreciate that. So the Australian dollar, Japanese yen continues to look really good. On a bigger picture, right? We're looking at the breakout, and you're looking at the breakout, come into resistance, come back in, holding the broken resistance, holding as support. And again, this is what if we break out on the DXY, I'll come right back to the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. It's the same thing that I perceive happening. If we break out, coming into that resistance and then coming back down. So here's a look on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, as that has occurred. There would be the breakout into the first resistance and back down, testing as support. Held the support, came back up. We had Iran, US fiasco over here. We had risk off big time and came back down, and this support held and price came off. So things look really good here. You're coming into this resistance right over here in this area. All right. Does that mean that you should look to sell right now? Look, I don't know. That's a big look at that. First of all, this is pretty solid resistance. Here's the thing though, right? There's the possibility going through Wednesday, and especially going through the signing, you could see continued risk on, which really means strong Australian dollar and weak Japanese yen. There's the possibility this trade could pop, right? And if you're into this trade, and if you did the hard work down here, I would not. I mean, I personally would not be taking profit. I would be giving it the room, and sometimes that bites you in the face. And sometimes, instead of taking this beautiful trade and profit, sometimes you give it back. It's possible it could happen, right? If I give it back, I mean, Just if you take a break even, you lost all this profit, right? But it looks good here, and that's my opinion. I'm interested in whoever is trading it, what they're looking to do, what they're looking to achieve on that. But I think you have a lot of things going in your favor, and it looks like a good trade. I would be definitely looking to hold it and see what happens. I think if you get rejected in this resistance here, I think you have to be watching right over here. Let's draw a support in. I think as long as you're above 75, 50, 52, you look pretty good. And would I be surprised if we came back down into there? No, that would be okay. As long as you're above there, though, you look pretty solid. All right. So, I mean, U.S. indices opened up pretty strongly. I think they're holding their gains right now, but coming off since the open a little bit, or definitely from the pre-market. Nasdaq towards the highs. Um, it's really hard trading against the indices again until the central banks start pulling the liquidity. You should see continued climb upwards, and when they come off hard. As far as any type of correlation between the what are you looking at? Japanese 2225. I'm not familiar with it. Let's see. I can't give any type of insight. I'm not familiar with it. I don't even look at it. Again, someone looked at the DAX last week also, and you see all global indices rising right now. Same thing. All I can say is that you just have an enormous amount of liquidity being added to the markets. The only thing to watch for is when the Fed starts pulling it away, and if China starts adding more liquidity. All right. But I know that people tend to try to like pick tops, and I don't think that's what you should be doing in this environment. Um, and I don't have anything else I could add to that because it's not something that I could feel comfortable offering my opinion on. I don't think that I am any type of I don't think I have the knowledge base to do that. And it's not where I focus my time and attention. And guess what? The markets are so competitive and so tough that you need to kind of be an expert where you focus. Otherwise, you're competing against experts, and you're gonna lose. Sorry about that, Jasmine. But sorry about that. I wish I could offer more. But again, just be careful about shorting. Even Tesla, right? I would love to short Tesla, but I would never do that in this environment because it's straight up, right? Look at it's in a parabolic move. So when this ends, this could wind up ending badly. But you can't step in front of that, you know. Um, and I guess a lot of people are feeling a lot of hurt on this right now. DJ, uh, I'm looking at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen as a potential short, but not until Wednesday. I would not do it if I'm going to do it, and I'll definitely let you guys all know. It would be after the signing of the trade deal. If I saw that the yen strength was coming into the market, if I saw a possible sell the news type event, but going into Wednesday, personally, I would not be looking to trade it. All right, couple things. Let me finish this line of thought. I would not before Wednesday looking to short this. I just think it's too dangerous because probably we do see risk on until the as the potential catalyst of a signing of the trade deal. So I'm not comfortable stepping in front of that and trading against it. Perhaps a sell the news type event, but more importantly, I think it's so much what I'm seeing going on from a lot of us is that traders are looking to sell against the trend. All right, so I think basics is really important. Basics is this: like buy off of supports in bull trends and sell off of resistance in bear trends. All right. So in things that are showing momentum to the downside, sell off resistance. This is what I was doing here, right? Downtrend. Here's my resistance. I'm selling off that resistance. Is it going to work out? I don't know, but I'm selling off resistance, right? Um, yeah, I'm selling off the holding resistance. I have to admit, over here on the Euro US dollar, I sold off this resistance over here, and everyone could say, well, that's a pretty strong uptrend. I agree with you, but the longer picture on the Euro US dollar is definitely very bearish, right? And I know how hard it is to hold along on the Euro US dollar because of the swamp. All right. But I think that if you want to start adding up some wins, if you want to start hitting a bunch of singles, singles, and it's a baseball analogy, like a base hit. You're not looking for a double, you're not looking for a home run. You just want to start putting up lots of base hits. I think the easiest way to do that is not going counter trend, but looking to in bullish moving pairs, look to buy off supports when they're holding, and look to sell off resistance in things that are in clear downtrends. Chris, what pair are you looking at that looks like a clear short? Uh, so right now the U.S. dollar, Japanese yen is obviously breaking above this resistance over here, and so let's change that over to support. Let's see if that support holds. If we get any type of retest, and I see it coming into this resistance right over here. Uh, just also to note that the DXY is also trading along this resistance. So um, if I traded, I don't trade that breakout, obviously. If I did trade this breakout over here, I probably would be taking profits over here right now. I don't expect that this is going to hold up here. Obviously, I could be wrong. But what I would like to see, if this broke up to the upside past this resistance, and if the dollar didn't hold this trend line resistance, all right, then perhaps I could look for the US dollar further upside against the Japanese yen. But right now, I don't see it. I think we're coming back down. We have to take a look at the support, only because um, again, unless we get a prolonged, I don't like the trade anymore here to the upside. I would, would I sell up here? No, I wouldn't. I would sell if you got below. If this support didn't hold, then I would consider selling it. Um, and I would like the fact that this resistance held over here. But what are you looking at, Blair? Um, whether you could just tell me in the chat, or if you have a chart, I would like to know the way that you're viewing this pair. Uh, Only because it's just not clear to me. Lemboy, what pair are you looking at? Okay, Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Blair, come back to this. I want to get into that further with you. Um, I don't know. I think that again, I wouldn't short this coming into what looks like a risk on type week going into Wednesday at least, unless you see trade talks falling apart. But right now, the last I saw, that China had let known through the through the what is it, the China Morning Journal, that the delegation is actually in flight on their way to Washington to sign the trade deal. That looks pretty risk on to me. I would not be looking to short this pair up here or looking that type of counter trend. I would look to see if this support didn't hold, then maybe you can consider getting short that pair. Right now, as long as you're above that support, be careful. Looks pretty good. It looks pretty bullish. Pound US dollar looks pretty good to me. Let's take a look at the bigger picture, right? So as long as we're above this trend line, it's pretty bullish. As long as we're above this support line, pretty bullish. As we're coming now on a day like today, when we've had some bad news out of England and the pound depreciated, look where it got into. It held over here the resistance, which is now support, and it's continuing to hold that area. If we resume upwards off of here, and I like the pound. And again, I haven't said that in a while. I think that it's becoming interesting over here. The closer we get to this trend line support, the better our risk to reward becomes, and I like it more and more. It looks pretty good, and I think this might be an opportunity now to, if we see a resumption upwards, to get into the pound. So I like the pound now. I don't like it where I'm looking for an entry on it, but I like it where it's getting closer now, where it's looking better and better. And it's been a while since it's looked like that. So Blair, I mean, two things: really good, really mature, really smart. First of all, if you don't see it and if it's not clear, step aside. Better that you're able to trade it mentally and kind of envision what you see happening and then let and see that play out. If anyone starts to do that and you see me do it all the time with all the pairs we look at when I have any type of idea, when I'm looking for this to happen, right? And the more you start doing that and not trading it live, that is what gets you into the flow of the market. And then when a setup happens for you that's clear, you'll be able to jump on it, right? So the best thing you can do when things are not clear is just trade it mentally. What do you think is going to happen next? And do that not just on one pair, do that on multiple pairs. Keep doing that, kind of warming you up, getting you ready and getting you in. And whenever something's not certain, whenever it's not clear, don't trade it. Do not trade it. More often than not, if you trade something that's not clear, you're going to lose money on it. Really, it's really that simple. So why does the so the Australian dollar, Japanese yen is actually considered the pair that is most correlated with risk on, risk off. The Australian dollar is a risk on pair. It's highly correlated to the Chinese economy. And when there's risk on, we expect growth out of there. Why the Japanese yen is considered the most risk off pair. If there, it's the when there's any type of thing going on in the world that is any type of risk adverse, you see flows into the Japanese yen more so than the U.S. dollar, the Japanese yen. All right. So if the U.S. and China are going to be signing a phase one deal, that means that you have risk on, meaning it's a good environment that the world's two superpowers are coming to like a truce or an agreement, and that's good as far as the global economy is concerned. And going into that event, I think that it's a good thing. So you should see the Australian dollar, Japanese yen continue to appreciate. Question is, what happens after they sign it? What does the market start looking at? Martin, one sec, we'll get to that. DJ, yes, I agree with that completely. It looks to me like a false break. Again, we could all be proven wrong. We got to get above. You got to see a lot of things happen. You got to see the U.S. dollar break out over here through this resistance, and right now it's trading against pretty strong resistance. It's pretty strong resistance we got up here, guys. So I expect that the U.S. dollar is uh is gonna definitely come off this a little bit. Now, I do expect further yen weakness over these next couple of days, though. So it's not to say that this move will not continue up. I don't think it's a pair offering opportunity. If this is a false breakout, though, the time to get into it, I think, is going to be when you get confirmation of that, meaning that this support here doesn't hold. And right now it's holding. So it's just unclear. There's no clear opportunity here. And when there's no clear opportunity, you just keep watching it until there is. We'll come back that we'll look at the Australian dollar, US dollar. Martin, I think as far as great question about, how many pairs should you focus in on trading? And I think as a beginner, again, why I used to be in the past, I used to think that, it was the best thing to do to focus in on one or two trading pairs and really concentrate on them and really focus in on them. I don't think that's the best thing to do anymore. I no longer think that. And I'm convinced the best thing to do is to be looking at several pairs. If you find the amount of pairs I look at to be too many, then find 7 pairs. Focus in on 7 different pairs and look for the best setups on those pairs. I think by looking at more than one pair, you get a much better understanding and feel of the market. So the foreign exchange market is all correlated with each other. And if you're looking at one pair, it's like if you're only looking at one pixel. But if you step back and you get a look at hundreds of pixels, you get a much clearer picture of what it is you're looking at, where you can't do when you're really close up looking at one pair. I think you have a much greater advantage focusing in on several pairs or more, right? Because it doesn't take long to look at all of them. And by looking at many more pairs, you're able to, first of all, get a better idea of the overall market, as well as then find out what is offering the clearest opportunity. I know for myself, by looking at, I don't know whether it's 15 or 20 pairs or whatever I look at, that I'm able to get into about 3 trades a week. And I think if I was looking at one pair, well, I think then I would force myself into trades that weren't there, and actually one pair limit your opportunity. Yeah, Chris, I agree with that. I see that. I think that also. So the Australian dollar, US dollar, let's take a look at her and see what's going on. Um, so this support down here is held. Again, I personally didn't get a chance to get long here. I would have liked to. This was a pair that I was noting against the dollar as the dollar came up into this resistance, that I liked trading against the dollar with the US dollar, Canadian dollar, or the Australian dollar, US dollar. Australian dollar turned out to be the better one. Guess what? I should have been more forward thinking, knowing when the expected China trade deal was, and knowing that going into events like that is normally when you see the move ahead of time. I couldn't get into the trade, right? We come up and we're towards this resistance, and we got some resistance right above us. So it was completely normal for us to kind of, after this run up, to come back off here. Would I take profits over here? I wouldn't, right? I expect, that the US dollar is going to be rejected by that resistance over there. So I expect we're going to see some US dollar weakness. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's what I expect is going to happen until it's proven wrong, right? So all I would be doing right now is just locking in my trade, just moving my stop loss to break even, and giving this room to hold. If we get a break above here, right, and get a clear above this, if that happens, this looks like this could be a good trade. All right. Um, Again, I know there's work to do, but there's always work to do, right? Over here is when you're looking to sell the dollar, unless this fails. We get above 97.60. We've broken through this trend line over here, this resistance, and yeah, we're gonna get a look into here. I don't buy the breakout. I'm not gonna sell this either. What I'm gonna be doing is looking to see if we then test it successfully and break out to the upside, or if we break through this resistance and then come back and test it, and then I'm long dollars, right? I'm long dollars on a successful test of this broken resistance holding as support, or this broken resistance holding as support. Then I get long dollars. Right now, my bias has shifted to into a weak dollar bias. I think if you're trading the Australian dollar, US dollar versus it, I think you got yourself into a pretty good position, or the best candidate at least. And right now, although that was a nice trade from here to here, I think that you have much more opportunity, and I would be holding it, just as I'm holding the US dollar, Canadian dollar still, and that trade is not moving into favor as well as the Australian dollar, US dollar. So that's the way I trade it. Short. So listen, gaps get filled most of the time, but it could be a long time before gaps get filled. Um, so I don't know. I think taking a trade just Zoran, if you're trading, if that's your strategy, is that your only strategy is trading around gaps. All right, then probably that works out more often than not. Like, here's a gap over here. You could see it back come filled. When and if this gap gets filled, I have no idea when that will be. Sometimes gaps don't get filled, guys. Let me take you back. This gap over here, granted, this was on an election, the French election, but this is a huge gap, a couple hundred pips, that's still in play. It has not been filled. Will it get filled one day? Maybe, probably, but don't a strategy based on gaps is not something that I'm familiar with, and just taking a trade on that alone, just be careful. Um, Going back to the euro, British pound, and it could happen. But I just think if that's your strategy, then it's got to be built completely around just trading gaps alone. That's a big number. Once you get up into those type of numbers, normally what you see happen is a pretty big move that really stops out a lot of retail, and then is when the reversal happens. Blair, I'm setting up in my mind that that's going to be Wednesday into Thursday. In I'm hoping. We'll see. So Chris, you are are you expecting here that the dollar does resistance doesn't hold, the dollar breaks out here to the upside, shorting the Australian dollar, US dollar over here? And I mean, are you also considering maybe that China walks away from the deal? Those are the things that would be going through my mind. To me, it looks pretty good. It looks like that, right now the Chinese are on the plane on the way over. And although they could walk away from the deal, I don't think that would happen till Wednesday if that happened. That's the market though. It's tricky, right? That short gold is working out today. Gold coming off right now. I like gold here if we start making higher highs, as long as the support holds here at 44. Guys, I don't know if I'm with you or not. I just need a second here. Yep, look at that. I think DJ was into this trade. Excellent trade, and if he continued to help through this, so I think this must be what's weighing and holding my Canadian dollar up, although still strong versus the dollar. Looking back on this, right? This was the resistance up here into this news with Iran. And once there was no casualties, right? The traders that were really, really quick and smart, that's the trade they took. I wasn't even on my horizon. I was more focused on things like gold at that moment. All right. So just a quick update here. Things right now in the market are not looking clear to me. I think the only things that I am focused on would be long the euro US dollar right now, short the US dollar Canadian dollar, long the Australian dollar US dollar. Again, for me, all my trades right now would be against the US dollar, and you know just taking a look at this resistance over here and taking the trades off of them. I obviously the play in the market was versus the yen. Um, but for me, there was no opportunity as far as any type of entries or looks. And I think, or what I'm expecting to happen is, again, this continue holds through Wednesday as far as the weekend. So it makes it a difficult time to trade. I don't see this as a place of opportunity that the market's giving any type of clear indications of like nice clear setups. So I'm continuing to hold my US dollar, Canadian dollar short. I don't see opportunity right now. So I'm just waiting for things to become clearer, because when I do see opportunity, it's pretty clear. I'm, opportunity across the board. A set of waves have come in. Right now, again, I think it's more of managing any trades you took on Friday. That's not to say that there's not a lot of money that could be made today, or that people aren't able to trade what is going on right now. They're not within my strategy. They're not within my wheelhouse. And although I could step right in now and start trading the market, that's not the way to do it long term and make money. I want to draw in a little support over here. Because gold resuming off of here, holding this trend line support below this support here. If we start making higher highs here, I do like gold to the upside. Get below this over here. All right, then I think we get a nice look down here at around 15.18, maybe even a little higher, 15.25. But again, it's as you get into supports when I look to buy in uptrends. This actually looks pretty good coming into the next sessions. So who's noticed that I sound a little off today? I do. The only thing I could say that I really like today is knowing that that I don't see things lined up. Right? It's so funny because Monday, like, so excited to get back into it, and then it is what it is right now. Viggy, I mean, great question. That's the question that traders should be asking themselves today. And there's two possibilities. The first possibility is that I saw today actually something that I was not aware of, and that as part of the phase one trade deal, the US will be rolling back tariffs in the future. I suppose so long as like certain conditions are met, which would mean like China buying a certain amount of US agriculture that the U.S. it didn't give any specifics on when that timeline would be, but they would be rolling back tariffs. And like in a perfect world, if all that happened and the US and China signed the trade deal, and don't forget, Donald Trump is trying to do everything he can this next year to get reelected, which means keeping the markets up. And you know, is it possible that in 2020 we saw the US roll back some tariffs? Yeah, and if that happens, that's entirely bullish overall. For the global economy, and we can continue to see a weaker yen and strong Australian dollar and strong Canadian dollar and strong New Zealand dollar. We could see all that happen, or we could see that, or we could see a sell-off on the news on Wednesday, Thursday, and the market could say that, well, even though that the U.S. and China are kind of working things out right now, or in a truce, the fact of the matter is that the world is moving into a global slowdown, and nothing is going to, you know, stop that, and it's pretty clear, and the market could be forward looking, and that could happen. So I don't know what is going to happen. I'm just kind of aware of both sides and why I think the market is looking towards a synchronized global slowdown, which would benefit obviously lower oil prices. We would see much stronger Japanese yen and much weaker commodity currencies. I don't know when that's actually going to happen, right? I don't know. Might not be after the elections, you know. So it could be a year from now or longer. So it's much easier to kind of focus in on having that broader picture, those ideas of what is playing out and being aware of it, but then just focusing in on to that swing trade level and looking at things more on a 1 to 3 day basis, 1 to 5 day basis. And it's much easier to kind of figure out what is going on and trade what's right in front of you, as opposed to such a bigger picture. And, you know, just as it is hard, it's more difficult to be trading off a small time frame, trading what's in front of you, you know, but things are changing so much, and back and forth, like how do you back and forth, it's difficult to trade. Just stepping back a little bit just gives you a much easier perspective to trade from. So that's true, but the last thing I did notice is that President Trump said that he will not at this point work on the phase 2 until after he's reelected. All right. Looking at time of day. So things just seem a little slow for me today. Again, I noticed that when I woke up, price on almost all instruments were pretty close to where they were last night. Market's not really doing too much. Same thing happening. Look at this bar. Price is right back where we started. It's now about an hour after U.S. equities have opened up, and you know, I think it's really important of recognizing the environment you're in. If you're short time minded, then right now you should definitely not be trading, right? Because the markets are not moving. And I think you have to really, the most important thing, the first and most important thing as a trader is recognize the environment you're trading within so that you could act accordingly. It's a slow day. And I mean, I'm looking for this risk on to continue through Wednesday. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'd be more interested in what happens up here on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, than down at this level over here. We're extended for a while. You see the entry CCI is above for a while, but I don't really see any reason in this moment to think about some yen strength coming into the market, with everything looking like the status quo going into Wednesday. Did the US dollar strengthen? I remember that night very well, and it was amazing night for trading. That's the best in trade environment. I love it when the market's moving like that. I don't remember what happened that night though anymore. Let's take a look. I think that was November of 16. This must be it right here. Look at this. Sure did. Look at that. This was such a great day for trading, but the dollar did strengthen. This was Hillary, 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 Hillary. Boom. I don't know that that will happen again though. If Trump's reelected, I have no idea, because I don't know what he's going to do if he's reelected. I think he's going to come down really, 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 really hard on China. I think that he's really going to go for the jugular if he's reelected and doesn't have to worry about a reelection. I really, really think that, at that point, you'd be looking to really, really strong Japanese yen trades. But there's also the possibility that he goes for some big infrastructure projects in the US, and then you see a weaker dollar. I know that you know right now Trump wants a weaker dollar. I know that's to get reelected. After he gets reelected, I don't know what he's going to be pushing and pulling for. So we have to wait and watch. So Bitcoin, we are coming close to the True Trend BTC on the 12-hour, crossing over to the upside. That would be a big buy signal for me, if that were to occur. On the monthly here, you can see that we put in a nice candle finally, making a higher high. And again, things look pretty bullish for Bitcoin. Took a nice look at it over here, although I'm not yet, really sold that we're just not going to be pretty much sideways or within a pretty tight range over the next 5 months, which I think we will be. All right. Let's hope all the Canucks out there are having a pretty rosy outlook. Seeing the dollar now, what's it doing? Seeing the euro kind of, put in a few pips now though against the dollar. Yen even coming off a tiny bit off the dollar. So let's, hopefully the Canadian dollar follows suit as well. Gold also. It's a slow day, everyone. Again, just really important to recognize that. Don't force trades. Let them come to you. Martine, and that's okay. That's good. It's really important. It's really important to recognize that. And the reason I'm stressing that right now is because here's the thing: if you don't recognize the market is slow right now and you're trying to force things to happen, more often than not, you're going to lose money doing that. Right? The whole point of this is to make money consistently and smartly. And part of that, and I guess the focus of today, is just knowing when the market is not moving, and nor are there any clear setups. And if nothing's clear, the best thing to do is stand aside and just wait for them to be. You'll make much more money that way. A lot of new traders think that they need to be taking trades to make money, but what they don't realize is by taking low probability trades, they're going to end up losing money. Both. You got wrecked. I don't think it's a good idea to trade Bitcoin on margin. I think most traders that do that wind up losing. I don't think that's a good idea to trade on some of the margin offered is up to 100x on a Bitcoin. That's a lot. Uh, so I think anyway, sorry, good question here. So it's really important to understand when it comes to Bitcoin, right? Is that you have the opportunity to actually own your Bitcoin. So what that means is if you store that offline, off an exchange, you actually own the Bitcoin and no one can take it from you. If you own that on an exchange, even Coinbase, and they go out of business, that you don't own that Bitcoin, which is the same thing with your US dollars. It's the same thing with you trading money. If you're trading US dollars on a foreign exchange account, you're trusting that exchange, right? It's the same thing as if you're holding Bitcoin on an exchange, you're trusting that exchange. There are some pretty big exchanges, such as Beyonce, how do you pronounce that? Beyonce, who they got hacked last year for a significant amount of money. It might have been $250 million. They were able to cover that, pay back everyone. No one lost any money. as long as you're on a reputable exchange, you should have no problems. For example, if you were to if you're trusting a Forex broker to trade your money in dollars, you're trusting them to hold it. Same thing if you're trusting them to hold it and do that in Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, if you own Bitcoin, you want to store that offline and only keep on an exchange what you need to be trading and using. If you plan on holding for a few years, then the best thing to do is to buy a hardware wallet such as Trezor, Trezor. You could buy that on Amazon. Make sure you buy it from the company on Amazon, and it's about $75 or so, and then go ahead and store that Bitcoin offline. Okay, everyone, take a look at the euro US dollar. 1 second, just one more. So the reason that exchange went down also was that Bitcoiners are pretty smart, pretty savvy, and they're worried about whether or not exchanges are solvent, as well as they worry about Wall Street selling Bitcoin that doesn't exist, as they just suppress the gold market. So what they do is every January 3rd, they do what's called the proof of keys, where everyone who has Bitcoin on exchanges go ahead and takes that off the exchange, so that the exchange has to prove that they actually have the Bitcoin. And that Canadian exchange went down during proof of keys because they didn't have the Bitcoin to back it up. So, that which was a tremendous loss for a lot of people, but for the industry, good overall. So here on the Euro US dollar, what's going on? We could just take a look from the top down, starting on the daily time frame. And so we did break out to the upside over here out of this channel. Came back up. This was resistance. Came back down, tested successfully the broken resistance and held the support. And then we were off and made new highs over here in this area. Since you could see we're making a series on the daily here of higher lows. Here's a higher low, another higher low, another higher low, higher low, higher low over here again. And now we're headed back up. More importantly, if you're trading the Euro US dollar, also you just want to be aware of what's going on here on the dollar index. And you can see that we're trading into this resistance over here, right? So as long as this resistance is holding, you're assuming it's going to hold until it doesn't any longer. So that means right now you want to be long the Euro US dollar if you're trading it. One moment, please. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, right now things look with a bullish bias towards the US dollar. I think that we have the possibility of coming back up here, at least towards. We should have some resistance around here around 1.1776 and up until here. And if we reverse out, if we get a break of this trend line over here, why I expect this resistance to hold. I want to see what happens at this resistance. I want to see if we go back into this pattern or if this holds a support. I think right now you don't want to be short the Euro US dollar. I think we would have to get below this support down here to have any type of possible even short bias. And more importantly, I think you need to get below this support down here at, what is that? That's 1 point. 1057. But right now, things structurally look in place. And I think even more importantly than that, I think we're going to be just within this range, within this area right now. Chris, do you have a chart you could send us? I would love to take a look at what you got going on over there. Is Bitcoin used for transactions? Yeah, Bitcoin's used for transactions. The amount of money moved in Bitcoin grows year over year. Next year, after the halving, that should grow exponentially. But people use Bitcoin for all sorts of things every day. Uh, you know, um, mainly for moving money. As far as buying coffee, again, I don't think people that own Bitcoin are looking to use it to transact to buy coffee, because they use dollars for that, or euros, something that they expect is going to lose value over time. They want to spend, and like people wouldn't use gold to buy coffee, even if you could, only because they expect gold to hold its value or appreciate in value over time. Same thing with Bitcoin. But Martin, if you wanted to move money from the United States to Spain, the quickest, easiest, and cheapest way to do that would be through Bitcoin. So Chris, I think might be looking at those two lows over down there. Um, Chris, the only way to get a chart over is sending it through TradingView through a private message. Just go ahead and click the recent chats, type my name, and then go ahead and send the chart, because for whatever reason you can't send it through YouTube. Um, YouTube just doesn't allow the links to go into the chat. The settings are allowing for links to be sent, but it doesn't work. So I didn't receive it or see it. Yeah, it looks like the dollar is this resistance is holding, or at least we're getting another look right now to the downside, and we're just working our way through here. But definitely seeing right now the euro acting pretty nicely and pretty strongly, and finally, my Canadian dollar getting into the action a little bit. So I think as far as me and specifically on my US dollar Canadian dollar trade, until I get stopped out, what I'm looking for happening here is to see if we get a look down at the support area down over here on the DXY, right? And then I'll be looking to see where other pairs are trading at that point. For example, where would that bring the euro US dollar? Probably up into this resistance over here. and at that point, be looking to see how price reacted around there. If I was holding the Australian dollar, right, I want to see where the Australian dollar is trading at when the dollar came off that far, but right now, one of two things could happen. I could get stopped out and then watch what happens, not trade the reversal here, watch to see if this support holds to the upside, or if we get above this resistance and then this holds, right? Then I become long US dollar. But right now, I think the next thing that I need to do is wait to see that we hold here. And if we get to this pocket, watch how price reacts. Does price hold this support down here, right? Or does it start stalling out here and bouncing off? Then I would look to take profits on my Canadian dollar trade, right? Um, or does price break through and we're going down lower? I have no idea what's going to happen or develop. We're kind of like at square one right now, still trying to hold this resistance. Here comes the yen even making a little bit of gains on the dollar. So there was a lot of work to do right now. It looks like the trade is finally falling into favor. Um, Again, it's just keep it simple. Always look for the resistance to hold, the support to hold until it doesn't. So I need to take a couple of minutes right here. Oh, sorry about that, Blair. Trading you, talking to you guys with zero sound for the last 5 minutes. Apologize that. The quick look on the US dollar, Mexican dollar. It's a tough one right now. You're trading right now off of the support again. You can see it held. You got that support down here and it's held. If we get above this resistance here, I wonder if the US dollar could finally take back some nice moves against the peso. The peso has been pretty savage versus the dollar this past month. And I wonder if we get a quick snapback, you know. Adversely, if we break below this support line over here, I wonder, is there more damage in store here for against the dollar versus the peso? Will we come down and see 1850? I don't know. It's a tough pair to trade right now for me. What are you looking at, long or short, Rustin? On the US dollar, Canadian dollar, I was looking at a couple of different levels. So someone noted that little bit of support that we've come in again and bounced off of. I'll mark it as light support. I didn't have to check and make sure it went back. There's a couple of touches over here as well. I see what you're talking about. It's light support. I also down here have light supported. Those are just, you know, we get down towards this area, I'll just check out what's going on. That's maybe where I move my stop to break even. But I want to see what happens if we get a look at those lows down here. I don't have any heavy support all the way down to this level down here at 1.2887. And you can see that came in this area over here. And then it held as support over here, that resistance when it was broken. So that's an interesting area for me. Oh, I hope that's not the case. I'm interested to look what you got going on there. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Blair noted we ran into some resistance over here at the 200-day moving average. I want to see if friend Greg has any type of Euro US dollar chart up there, so I get a look at these moving averages just for fun. This is the daily. It looks like that was right around the daily. Is that 200? I can't even read that. 100, 200-day moving average coming in at 1.37. That's about where the high just went. Let's see what's more interesting up there. Even that's a little too noisy for me. Greg trading a lot off the hour moving averages. It's just too noisy for me. A little bit too low of a time frame. I just like taking away a lot of that noise, making things a little bit easier. Quiet session today, guys. Quiet session. Oh yeah. So I read something about the short interest in Beyond Meat just as it was hitting all-time highs. Whoa. Ouch. Look at that short squeeze. So, I mean, it's kind of like Tesla for me. There's no way I could step in front of it, right? Uh, and I'm just looking at right now where if you get a little bit higher, all of a sudden you have a lot of air, and you could even get up much higher, all the way to 125. So difficult, but I mean, overall, I think the company is a failure. But right now, the short interest in this is extraordinary, and they're just getting toasted right now. Look at that move. Is this like what is this, like 30% in 1 week? It's a big move. There's a big competitor. They're a private company though, to Beyond Meat. Um, and was it they have a deal with, is it Burger King? Um, but I know there's another company that's a competitor with Beyond Meat, except instead of using just like plants and beans, they grow artificial meat in labs. Are you familiar with them, Blair? Impossible Foods. No, I just think Impossible Foods is that from what I understand, I don't know. So I don't know. I'm not looking to trade Beyond Meat. Haven't been following the story except from very far away. But from what I understand, that this is just my understanding that the what's inside Beyond Meat is not really so healthy for you, right? Even though it's plant based and yada yada yada. I don't really think it's that healthy for you. And um, but you're coming from, this come from the perspective of someone who believes that, I believe that, grass fed, hormone free, uh, you know, meat is super healthy for you to eat. Um, so I think Impossible Foods though is going to wind up has the possibility to take much more of the market share here than Beyond Meat. Um, Again, uh, I'm speculating from afar. Like I can't offer anything sound here to tell one way or the other. Um, and so going back to the fact that they're highly processed and not healthy, I just think as time goes by, as months and years pass, and then like collectively, people just and because of the internet, and it's not like we're just force fed whatever narrative we're giving to us, like the old food pyramid, which is really unhealthy. That people are gonna, people want to be healthy, people want to eat healthy, and they're just gonna realize that it's not healthy for you. We had that like 15 minutes of a little bit of excitement in the markets this session, and since prices stalled out once again. There it was. Boom, boom, boom. Price stalling out. Let's look at a very small time frame. Feel like we're treading water today, guys, going nowhere fast. It is what it is. We can only do what the market gives us right now. It's not much of anything. I think the most exciting thing to be watching is this pound Australian dollar, as we're riding on this neckline. No man's land here. Well, I'm here with you guys. I don't not too much going on right now. If anyone, you know, is interested in something or looking at something, maybe something else that we're just not aware of is going on. Definitely let me know if anyone wants to discuss anything. I'm here. Otherwise, I'm just hanging out here with you guys, waiting. All right. Well, this looks like we're coming into an interesting point over here, right? Where can we put so strong downtrend coming back up now into resistance? Where is the resistance? I think it's actually pretty clear, right? I think it's pretty clear resistance, and then over here is how the support. So I think right now also you're in kind of like a blue box area, uh, from right where price is now until that resistance. So I think you need to watch for a reversal down here if it comes in and it, sell off the resistance. If you get back above there though, then I don't know. Then maybe then things have changed, and this was kind of like I don't want to call it a false break because it played out. If this was, and then here you had the breakdown. I mean, came in, didn't make a lower low than this support, but that was a beautiful trade, right? So I don't want to call it a failure if we get back above this resistance here because it was a good trade and a lot of money to be made. But if you get above this resistance here, well, then we might be seeing a long-term reversal over here. So you're at a nice point here on this trade on this pair, but you're at a nice inflection point, giving you a nice risk to reward where you're wrong right away if you're wrong, and not only that, if you're wrong, maybe you turn around and you can play it to the other side. But right now, you're expecting this resistance to hold until it doesn't, and if you get any type of reversal, nice pair. Short pound Swiss franc today was the best trade of the day, and it's continuing to keep moving. Awesome job. Uh, so who is that? Steve, could you give us any insight into how that trade developed? Because take away this huge candle over here, and to me, price is just kind of pretty sideways, sitting on that support over here. Were you trading a breakdown of the support where my mouse is horizontal? If you draw that in over there, I mean, definitely the trade of the day. Is that broken support you're trading? How would you trade that? Why didn't you take these over here? I'm interested to how and why you got into that trade. Um, so I could learn from it, but definitely a good position to be holding. Just join that in there. That's where you know, I might be looking to take profits after a waterfall day like that. That's the next area of interest though for me. Look at that. There he goes, Oran. That's absolutely. You know, I when a trade's going in my favor, I also don't mind waiting and giving it that room. I'm never quick to take profits. I always want to give it that little extra room and time. If a trade's working out in my favor and everything looks healthy, because I mean, the thing is to make profits here, right? Don't be so quick to give up on good trades. That's something that really takes a little bit of time to learn, and it's a very important piece of the puzzle. Zoran, what pair are you looking at? I need to take a quick break here to the restroom. Be right back. I see price is exactly where it is on everything since I left. Exciting day. When it's this slow, it's time to look at the news. Even the news is slow. There's just nothing going on right now in the markets. There's a look at Beyond Meat. Euro trying to peak above here. Let's see if we get some dollar weakness going into the next 35 minutes of trading. If so, there's a good chance that extends over until tomorrow. Speaking of tweets, I just saw earlier something that China was insisting. It's so funny. Always up until we have these, like the day of the supposed signings between U.S. and China, there's these last minute posturing and demands. China is demanding that the U.S. remove any type of I don't know if the word is sanctions, but any I believe it's sanctions that prohibits Iran and China from doing business together right now, which I guess means oil purchases. Um, you know, so it's never easy, right? It's never easy, and we'll see what plays out over the next couple of days. Slow grind up on the U.S. equities. Listen, it's a slow day right now. It's just a question of managing open positions. If anyone is interested in looking at something, definitely let me know. I'll take a look at it right now. If you're just joining us, in the description we have a link to the Telegram group. This was just started last week, and later in the day, towards the end of the New York sessions, going into Asia, after any new trade setups developing, I go ahead and do a 1 to 3 minute video on TradingView, and then go ahead and notify everyone through the Telegram group. You go ahead and get involved in that. Yeah, Taiwan is, I wonder if all the Hong Kong protests and drama has helped Taiwan being away from the spotlight a little bit. Look back over here. Oh, this was the first time you came into resistance. Notice that spike up. It never held. That's why I use the daily. Looks like the DXY just turned negative on the day. Euro popped on that. Japanese yen now able to kind of establish itself off that support over there. What happens with the Canadian dollar? It's not really moving yet. I think that's because crude is under so much pressure. Let's take a look. So, I mean, the thing about trading is that there's always opportunity, and let's take a look. I don't know that we're going to see yen strength come into the market right now. Here's the thing: there's always opportunity in the market, and depending on where you make your living, there's plenty of things you could do all the time. From my perspective, and it's not necessarily correct or right. I can only give my insider view. I mean, I'm tended towards I'm definitely leaning bullish here. And the reason why is that, and I'm not saying, Chris, because we're not going to come down and test this support again all the way down here. And look at that. That's like 180 pips below. It's possible, but we look really bullish to me, holding a nice structure over here. You're above this support, first of all, down over here. You're also above, this was resistance for 6 weeks. We broke above it. It's pretty strong support now, and it's holding. So things look pretty bullish, which means I'm leaning towards buying supports, supports that hold. And right now you can see, let me make that darker for you. You can see this support is still holding. So if we resume upwards off of this, I actually like it to the upside. And I don't want to throw you off your game. Maybe I'm wrong here, and maybe if we break down below that, and especially if you get below 142.27, if you get below 142.27, then things are looking, near term bearish. You might get a better look down here for a profit, but I would be inclined personally to buy of any resumption upwards off of this. Again, this just my luck. I want to extend this trend line over here. I like long better any opportunity to lean off of that trend line in the future. Maybe I don't want to. The worst thing that could happen is I give just my look at it, and then yours is what happens. I just clearly though I always want to look for where there is the best opportunity, and I don't see it here right now, and I do see a lots of sideways in this area. Yeah, big Rustin. That's what happened there. Something happened with Croatia, who's just entered the EU recently, putting up an obstacle as far as England is concerned. Usually, zero hedge would give some type of accountability for what happened there. I don't know. For me, it's just technical, right? I'm just keep it simple. Step back. Look at the support resistances. I don't see any treasury reportings. Zero hedge normally covers that right away. I think it's just more time of day. Wow. I need to read up on this. Got a lot of things going for it. Up, continuing its gains today, intraday, as are the U.S. indices, right? What's the risk for this? The one risk, the most immediate risk for this is that China walks away from the trade deal on Wednesday. Is there a possibility that they do that? There is a possibility that they do that, and that's not the base case. The base case is everything gets signed on Wednesday. If China does walk away on Wednesday, you will see, I think, definitely the all equities drop pretty hard and fast off that news as they're trading near highs. So if you are long Tesla, that's the one thing I'd be just watching is the trade deal on Wednesday, the phase one deal. That's the wild card. Lemboy, why? I mean, as far as the dollar is concerned, the only thing that I'm focused on here is the charts. Looking here at the dollar index, we're coming up off this resistance. So again, uh, I'm expecting that resistance to hold and price come back down here until it doesn't. If once this resistance no longer holds and it breaks, then we'll reevaluate and we'll figure out what we need to do. But until then, that's I don't know any other reason why the dollar would fall on the 14th. Um, you know, if outside of just sticking to our normal TA. Yeah, right now is the perfect time to take a look at anything. Wow, so we looked at this earlier, and so if you're long this, that's awesome. And I think we looked back in a bigger picture. I think you still have some room here to the upside, right? Before you have to even, I think around the 113 80 level, more or less, you could start looking. You have definitely even further. You have a lot of room here still to the upside, and you're in a strong moving market. I can't imagine before the trade deal signed having any type of yen strength. If the trade deal falls apart, or the phase one deal, I should call it, falls apart, then of course we're going to have massive yen strength. But the Swiss franc is also a safe haven currency, so I don't know what would happen here. You're in a really, really strong bull market, and if you got into a long trade here, then to be honest, you know how to manage it better than me, because I'm not into it. You could see we had this box over here ever since the breakout is when it's really going, but I wouldn't chase anything up here. I wouldn't be buying up here, obviously, and there was no way that I could have got into this trade. There's no way that I could have or would have gotten this trade personally. Um, Outside of, and I wasn't trading it, right? It would have been down over here somewhere. But everything looks good there. If you're holding a position in this trade, I think you got to continue to hold it because everything looks super solid and good. Well, in that case, everyone, if Notre Dame said it, everyone gets short. No, I would not be shorting this though. Of course not. No, I think you're jesting there. That you're shorting this. Um, there's no reason to, uh, obviously, obviously you're joking. That's a really, anyway. I'm not gonna even. If you're shorting this, you're on the wrong side of the trade. So we had there's reports out that the U.S. is to lift the China currency manipulator ahead tag ahead of the trade deal. Looks like the U.S. is doing everything it can to get that signed on Wednesday. Let's see. Let's check out the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. You can see it popping above there on that news. Here, they move to the 15. You can see on that news breaking above that little resistance level. It's got a little more work to do to the upside. You get above that 76.13, and I think that you might be able to see a lot more gains on there going into Wednesday. I don't know what happens after Wednesday. I don't know what happens after the trade deal sign. I think that's when we're going to get a sell the news type event. Again, I'm not trading off that yet, but I'm watching for that, and I'll continue watching for that if things going into the trade deal continue to show that we have risk on into the trade deal. You guys are looking at weekly resistance. It looks like oil could be finding a bottom here. I'm hoping that strengthens my uh, US dollar, Canadian dollar trade here. Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, just like the US dollar, Japanese yen, they're all coming into that resistance up there. But again, it's hard for me shorting the yen going into what looks like a risk on type week until that trade deal signed. There's a look at the US dollar, Japanese yen, also in that same resistance as the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. Euro, Japanese yen, also at resistance. She looks like she's going to break to the upside here, right? It looks like we're going to get a breakout to the upside. I'm drawing that in here because if it does, and that turns into support over here, I could be interested in here and taking a look at a long on the euro Japanese yen, maybe perhaps as early as even during London. Depends. See if we get the breakout during New York, and then we'll see if it continues to hold throughout Asia. All right, everyone. I think this is a good place to end today's session. Again, well, you could look at the price action over here. We're in a pretty narrow range over here as this resistance continue to hold, and it's one of those days where I think it's important to recognize what's going on and trade it accordingly. And for me, that obviously meant just continuing to manage my open trade. I'm not looking to initiate any new trades over here. The things that I'm watching a couple of things. I'm watching gold. So long as it holds this trend line over here and holds this support right here, if it were to turn up over here, specifically during London, I'd be interested in taking a look at long gold over here. That's also adding to that assumption that the dollar holds over here and we see some further pressure on the dollar. I think if we see some pressure on the dollar over the next 24 hours, that could benefit gold possibly. I also see want to follow this pound Australian dollar as we get close to this neckline to see if the break happens in the sessions ahead. I'm not taking the break, but I will watch it if we do break to the downside and see if we get any type of successful test of the broken support as resistance and trade it on a resumption downwards. I would take that trade this week. And I'm watching right now the Euro Japanese yen. I want to see if we are able to get a breakout over here during New York today. And if we do, and if we hold that throughout Asia, this support, if this broken resistance becomes support, and we get a resumption up towards London or New York, I might be interested in taking a long over there because I do expect that the euro also has a little bit of room up here before I would consider taking profits if you were long the euro. So not too much going on, but it's just part of the situation. I know a lot of people right now are looking, it seems, to be shorting Japanese yen pairs, whether it's the Australian dollar Japanese yen, Canadian dollar Japanese yen. I'm not, and it's very counter trend. Maybe it's going to work out. Sometimes, the most money could be made on a counter trend. You've come up a long time. You've come up hard and fast. Maybe it's time to get a little bit of breather, but I think it's a little bit dangerous. I'm not going counter trend on those whatsoever. I'm looking actually to watch them extend over the next 2 days into Wednesday, and then after assuming the trade deal signed, after that, then maybe I'll be getting short yen pairs if the trade develops. No, we could, before we drop off, let's look at the New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. So, wow, I mean, just looking at this in the 8 hour, we're in a very narrow range. We're between support and resistance. We all have different styles of trading. For my style of trading, which is swing trading, um, I can't take an entry when I'm neutral. For me, this is no man's land, and because there's no all that I see though, and I just kind of want to draw that in, just not to trade it, but to watch it. A break to the downside of that trend line, and then you get below here. You get below this. Let me draw that in. We get below that support, and I definitely like this to the downside. An opportunity leaning in, or even over here, for a short might look good. Again, I think that's going to be after Wednesday, on Wednesday, or after Wednesday. And then if I could get a look at this resistance up here, and then a break of this trend line somewhere over there, then I would be interested in taking this to the short side. She gets above this resistance line over here, looks good to the upside. But right now, for me, it's in no man's land. If you've been trading back and forth, might be because it's in no man's land. I can't figure out. You got the resistance up here. DJ, I trade things that are moving, and just avoid things that are sideways for my trading style. All right, everyone. I'll catch you all tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful day. If anything changes, it looks like it's a slow session. If anything changes, I'll definitely send out some updates through the Telegram later on. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and hopefully we have some more excitement building up tomorrow, some more opportunities. I don't even see the next set of waves coming in for me. It's like I'm sitting there waiting for the next set of waves, and I don't even see them on the horizon right now. That's okay. I think Wednesday, obviously, is providing the opportunity maybe for some big trades to occur. That could be a big turning point in the markets because it's a big news event. I know most people are expecting for everything to be rosy. Normally, how it works is going into the news event, right? That's the build up, and then that's why you have buy the rumor, sell the news, and that's becoming my base case for Wednesday. Obviously, as always, it's going to be whatever the charts are showing and doing, but I always prepare myself mentally. All right, everyone. I'll talk to you later.